In honor of his recent birthday, I'm really excited to look at this book, ATARI FORCE #1 by Gerry Conway and drawn by the birthday boy and the legend José Luis García-López, who happens to have the longest name in comics. This book came out in 1983, but I'd argue it can actually go toe-to-toe with a lot of books that are coming out now, over 40 years later. Let's take a look at why I think so in this week's episode of My Wednesday Comics, Closer Look. Okay, I'm so excited to talk about this issue because of the man, José Luis García-López. Happy birthday, happy belated birthday to you, sir. Here we go, ATARI FORCE. For those of you who don't know, ATARI FORCE is based off of the Atari video game system that we grew up with in the 80s. And ATARI stands for Advanced Technology and Research Institute, which is kind of funny that they needed that extra A for the and. But anyway, it's a cool name. They originally did a mini-series with a group of characters that kind of did some sci-fi tech stuff, but they never really went this super adventure route. And I feel like with the advent of Star Wars and how that changed pop culture at the time, and even now, this was their response of trying to do their own Star Wars spin on the concept of ATARI FORCE. And they got the best artists to be on this. I just feel like I'm going to be geeking out the whole time I'm flipping through this book, because there's not a page in this comic that doesn't get me excited about comics. So great setup here to begin with of some sort of outback kind of sci-fi tavern. This guy sleeping here, and then bodies get thrown at him. He wakes up. These amazing expressions just for an ancillary character at the very beginning. Just different angles and composition that José Luis García-López is picking. Here's a splash page. This hand and gun is just the side crowd character, but it's so striking and it just draws your eye immediately, and it's so well rendered. It's beautiful. What a beautiful design of this gun. And we're just in the fray. We're in the action already. This main character and this main character, her name's Dart, his name's Blackjack, and they're kind of this dynamic duo, swashbuckling team. And they kind of set up the story of how this person here betrayed them. Wonderful design. Just all the costuming, how it fits, just feels so thought through and realized. It's not just a flick of the wrist. Like you can tell that García-López was really designing this with a deep knowledge of costume design. Some great pacing here. I just love the expressions. I love the posing that García-López does. There's so much appeal in his work. It just oozes off the page. Beautiful face here. So this character Dart, they're setting up, she has this like psychic ability. She's kind of foretelling that these characters are coming, the colony cops, and they have her and Blackjack tied up here. So she sees into the future a little bit and is trying to avoid it. Her future moment that she's seeing is colored in this like green. They turn the black lines into green. It's really beautiful. And at that time of comics being produced, coloring was so limited. So this was such a neat technique that they used. Look at this angle on her head and her neck pose and this hand. Just a beautiful angle that is so difficult to draw, and he just uses it for this one moment for her to talk to Blackjack and tell him, hey, we gotta go. Like, it's really elegant and dynamic. And then this pose here of her like hopping over characters. This is the main bad guy that that just betrayed them. They're running out of the room. This beautiful like leading of your eye into the direction of where they're going. All this is just like drawing your eye into this direction. Blackjack jumps up here, and as he is, García-López is drawing our attention to this bottle of alcohol that he's carrying. and then immediately it's shot. So you get this threat, and you make this connection between this bottle and this bottle here, and the sound effects help with that too. It's awesome. There's a great sense of humor. They definitely have this Han Solo swashbuckling feel, this rogue character who's just goes by his own whims, doesn't answer to anybody. So there's a nice play there, but there also is a high threat of them getting hurt and being captured. So they're being pursued, and so you're instantly in. Like, who are these characters? There's a beautiful woman, very cool dude, and they're being chased, and you're in as a reader. The whole time they have this banter between each other, and it just adds to their characters. As they're running through these action sequences, the way that they interact with each other, you can tell that they have a relationship, which is amazing, and kudos to the writer for adding that in. This panel is so beautiful, and it's my one storytelling comment. I'm not even going to pull out my sketch pad to try and do a horrible drawing to correct this, because this drawing is just so beautiful. But here's what I was thinking. The characters are all jumping off in this direction, screen left. They're heading screen left, running away, screen left. And here they jump out of this hole, and she's falling from a cliff, again, facing screen left. However, in the next panel, we get a different angle, and they're falling down, but they're facing from the opposite side. So it's like the camera switched sides. So I almost feel like, to help us transition to that moment better, it would have been better if, well, better, but maybe it would have helped if this panel here, she's falling straight forward. So we get this feeling that the camera starts on this side and then straight forward, and then it moves to this angle, so we don't jump that 180 degree here from here to here. But that's just a crazy nitpick, because look how amazing that drawing is. And you get it. You get that she's following. You connect it with the clouds here and the clouds here and just her general downward fall. But that was just one comment if I had to pick something. Here she goes. She throws this cool sci-fi grappling hook device, pops out. It actually reminds me of my note in Killing Girl #1 in the video that I did, how I wish that we had a moment of the grappling hook popping out. And this is exactly what I'm talking about right here. It gives us this clear indication. She throws something, you see this circle design, and then they get a closer view of it where we see these clear prongs pop out, and then it connecting to the spot, and then the tension. So it's all super clear. Great storytelling there. And then look again, I'm going to keep pointing this out, but this pose is so difficult to draw. I don't know how much reference Jose Garcia-Lopez was using, but I mean, that's an amazing pose. Very dynamic, interesting camera angle. It really gives you that sense of height and danger that they're facing, how he's holding onto her, gravity's pulling down. She still has a beautiful expression on her face. It's amazing. And then this character, the character who betrayed Dart and Blackjack, is walking past in a cloak. You follow that with your eye here. He's looking this direction. It points us here. Now he's going in the tunnel. They do this nice little pop out of white color, so you follow him into the tunnel. Here he is again and again, and now he's facing the bad guy and gets thrown into this pool of acid. Amazing moment, and setting up like how evil this guy is. It's that classic, like, oh, you think this one person's the bad guy, and then he meets the boss, and the boss is even worse than him. So it's a fun little setup without totally spoiling the reveal of the main villain. And there he is. If that's not inspired by Star Wars, I don't know what is, but nonetheless, it's a really cool design, very mysterious, and then they set up this little treasure, they call it a gem bubble, as something of value in that world. These side characters here, like, really cool. Again, that whole Star Wars vibe of these alien races that look different, but they have so much personality. Even though they're alien, they already have so much personality. And I'd say the writing has something to do with it for sure, but Jose Garcia-Lopez's designs again, draw you in, and you're like, well, who is this character? And he just has a really small part, but it's so interesting and so cool, and his expressions are so alive. Then they introduce this character who is one of the main characters moving forward in ATARI Force. I think they call her Baby because she's a child, a baby version of her race. And they explain in here, just in the writing of how, and also the drawings, of how as they grow older, they turn into these huge mountain-like structures that became immovable or immobile. And what a cool sci-fi character. So they capture her and enslave her and bring her into their ship. They do this nice little moment where they break up the panel so you get like a passage of time, but it's all happening in the one space. And now here is the introduction of another main character. His name is Tempest, and he's in this maze, and they're watching him in this labyrinth. These scientists are watching him to kind of see how his power manifests. He is the son of one of the original ATARI Force characters in the original miniseries, and so that's how they're connecting the two time periods. That's a great device where people who might have already seen the original ATARI Force, it's not a hard reset, but it's a way of moving it forward, progressing it forward, and introducing new characters while not forgetting about what was already created. So Tempest has this ability to teleport and move his body into, they say, different multiverses and then reappear out of these different portals. I love this professor, this scientist looking. Like, she is amazing. A lot of attitude just in this one pose here. Great angle here. Awesome posing. So dynamic and so fascinating. Look at this angle. This is like a low angle, up angle. Like, why would you choose that angle? But it's amazing. And it's really dynamic, and a dynamic angle for a very static scene. Keeps it moving, keeps it interesting. It's amazing. So here he goes using his power, and he gets pulled in by the robot. He almost gets through to find the exit to the labyrinth, and he gets pulled back by the robot. And then they describe how he can use his power to teleport one part of his body and destroy the robot from the inside out. And he flips into that, and then there's this wonderful connection here between the professor and Tempest. It's beautiful. It must be using reference for that because that's such a great drawing. This character also, she's like a telepathic mental character, and she's also one of the main characters here, and so interesting and so unique. And they have this moment here in a garden, and Tempest is kind of having this moment with this girl talking about his past, and this is almost like a romance comic a little bit, the way that the drawings are and the staging, but it just keeps it fresh, and like, it's not all action, but the artwork is still amazing. A lot of thinking and thought, and great angles. It's a beautiful use of shadow here, and the introduction of this new character, this rat character. He's a thief, and again, beautiful expressions even though he's alien. The alarm sounds off on this thing he's trying to steal, and he's being chased by these alien guards. Great use of perspective here, different scale these guards. And then this is a reoccurring thing that happens in later issues. Anytime he gets cornered, he kind of goes into this berserker mode, which is awesome. Look how they show this. It's like different moments and different poses and all in one panel, and you get it. He's just kind of chaotic and freaking out, and he totally wipes out those guards. And just within 2 pages, they set up this device that they're going to use with this one character. This is a characterization moment. I love how there's overlap and breaking of the borders. It really moves your eye around. You feel like the world is open and these characters are just popping off the page at you. Beautiful hero shot of Dart right at this moment. And the whole time this guy is boozing it up in the background, but he's really likable. You know, he's got that like Tom Selleck, Harrison Ford quality to him. And grabs the girl, Kisses her on the lips. They have this nice interplay. Again, it's just building these relationships, their interactions, the way that they talk to each other, touch one another, handle one at each other, look at each other, all super subtle and beautifully done. Just so elegant for like a sci-fi adventure book. And then the last panel is that character that was introduced at the beginning. You see his bones kind of rise up from the acid, and you know, like, the bad guy that kicked him in that acid, he's coming for our heroes. And so this is what could this is what could happen to them at the end. So it really sets you up of like, oh, what's going to happen? You know, where is this going to take me? Great first setup. There's a lot happening in this first issue. A lot of characters being introduced, a lot of backstories, a lot of history and fun action. Just an all-around great issue. And it just made me want to read more and more and more. And each issue afterwards just keeps building more and more on the plot and the characters. And I give a whole lot of the credit to the artwork. There are some filler issues that happen when Jose Luis Garcia-Lopez doesn't draw the book, and they don't capture me as much. And you can see in the hands of a lesser artist, it could easily come apart at the seams. So I don't know enough about his career of where he was, but I just feel like this was like peak him. He was just firing on all cylinders, just showing off about what a great artist he was. And I really loved this series a lot. So on a scale of 1 to 10 for story, I'd give this one a 5. I mean, it is trying to set up a lot of information and a lot of backstory. And I find the pacing and how Gerry Conway did it really gave each moment time to breathe, gave you information about the history of the characters without going too in depth in it, kind of threw you into the world and the action immediately and got you invested in what was going to happen next. So even though this was issue 1, I was sold already by the end, and I really wanted to see what was going to happen next, which I think is a win for a story. For the world, I would also, on a scale to 1 to 5, give this a 5. I love this genre. This is like Star Wars world. We're talking fantasy, sci-fi, weird alien characters, future technology. It's just a fun genre and a fun world that they're building in. Again, with the writing, they kind of give you hints and enough information for you to track different alien races and different worlds and set up all of that without overwhelming you with the nitty-gritty details of the history and the mythology of a world. So I really liked it. It was just enough taste that got you in and excited about that genre, which is a genre that I really love. For characters on a scale to 1 to 5, I would give this one a 5 as well. How many characters were introduced here? At least 5, 6 main characters were introduced here, but each one had a story arc. Each one had a relationship, and each one had an amazing design. I'll talk about art in a second, but the designs on these characters, yeah, of course they were referencing what was in pop culture and media at the time, which was Star Wars, but they had their own flair to it, and each character had interesting things about them, individual unique characterizations about each one of them that made them appealing and likable, and you wanted to know more. So that's always kind of something. It's like, if I want to know more, that means I'm investing in it. So I really like the characters. Each one of them had just really appealed to me. There wasn't one character where I was like, oh, I really like that character, but that one was so-so. Like, I really liked each one of these characters. And finally, art. If it's no surprise to you now, based on that flip through, I love Jose Luis Garcia-Lopez's art. He is incredible. There's no doubt in my mind why he's been considered a legend all this time. Not as talked about as much as you would think of somebody with his skill, but he can draw anything. The thing that really is coupled with his ability to draw is that sense of appeal and design, which there's some artists there that can draw anything, but the appeal, at least for me, might not have been there. But with him, each character, each environment, each tech or prop, each alien character had so much appeal to it and just made me love his artwork. He can draw anatomy and posing, and his storytelling was so solid, and his environments, his establishing shot, just his variance in small shots, big shots, medium shots, action, drama, romance. Like, he could do it all, and he's just showing off in this book, I feel like, and he's just getting started. If you look at the following issues, there's some artwork in the later issues that I thought even topped this one. So I really, really love the artwork in this. This made me fall in love with Jose Luis Garcia-Lopez's work even more, and it just made me want to buy more issues of what he had done and also look at other books that he had produced just because of what he did in ATARI FORCE. This book could have easily been a horrible idea based on the origins of where it came from, based on an arcade system, and the original miniseries story was a little bit bland in my opinion. But his spin on it and him being the artist on it just took it to another level, and it really made me think, wow, I wish they compiled this in a bigger volume so that people could appreciate what he did. You can still buy these issues, you can still find them on eBay or maybe back issue stores, but it's worth it. It's really worth it. For a book to get 5s across the board on all the categories is a high mark for me, and I really think that this book deserved it. So there it is, ATARI FORCE #1. The only knock I would have on this one issue is that it's just one issue, and so much more of the world building, the story, the characters, and the art comes from the following issues. So I highly, highly recommend looking them up, and I would love to hear what you guys think about it. If you agree with me, if you disagree, definitely leave some comments. For those of you who are familiar with ATARI FORCE, leave comments and let me know what you think. Don't forget to like and subscribe this episode, and if you haven't caught it yet, I did another one this week from the Tide book of Berserker Poetry of Madness pen and ink version. Go check that out. Let me know what you think about that one. And hopefully next week we don't have a tie where I have to do this again, but it was fun. See you guys around. Thanks again.